What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. Today we're doing a budget build on Hamza, Guardian of Arashin. This guy does not get a fair shake. He's incredibly powerful and I think a lot of people pass him up because he's 2-color, but honestly he's going to get our creatures super cheap and fill the board with a lot of counters and a lot of creatures out of nowhere. So without further ado, let's get into the deck tech. This first category is all about making sure our creatures enter the battlefield with those 1/1 counters on them. Bio guy, this guy, he adds a mana to our mana pool and whatever creature we cast with that mana, boom, they're going to get a 1/1 counter. Good Fortune Unicorn, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on that creature. Rishkar Pima Renegade. This guy's really good because not only is he ramp, he can turn our whole board into ramp, and he's going to dish out those 1/1 counters. Perfect. Renata Called to Hunt. Again, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, go ahead, slap a 1/1 counter on it. Forgotten Ancient. This guy can get massive and then we can start giving those 1/1 counters out to all of our creatures. Felidar Retreat. This one's amazing because not only can we use it to go wide, but then we can use it to put 1/1 counters on all of our creatures. Mikaeus the Lunarch. This guy's really good late game and really good early game, right? Because early game we can go ahead, make him big, divvy out those 1/1 counters, and late game we can smack him onto the board as a 20/20 because why not? Juniper Order of Rengar. Again, one of those cards that whenever one of our creatures enters the battlefield, slap a 1/1 counter on that creature and a 1/1 counter on Juniper. Lenore Autumn Sovereign. All we have to do is make sure we have 3 different powers amongst our creatures, which is not going to be hard because she gives out 1/1 counters, and then we're going to be drawing cards and again buffing up those creatures. Ivy Lane Denizen. This guy's amazing because whenever a green creature enters the battlefield, we can throw a 1/1 counter on any creature. Notably, we do run Herd Ballast because we're a little degenerate, but honestly, why wouldn't you, right? It's a budget build, infinite ballast, let's do it. Retreat to Kazandu. Honestly, it's just really useful. Land enters the battlefield, we can put a 1/1 counter on one of our creatures. We can gain 2 life if we need to, but honestly, I don't see that being relevant. Roaring Earth, another one, whenever those land enters the battlefield, we can just go ahead and put a 1/1 counter on something. Additionally, if we do need more creatures, we can discard this and put X 1/1 counters on a land we control. Master Chef. This amazing background is not only going to make sure our commander enters in with a 1/1 counter, it's going to make sure all of our other creatures do, as long as our commander's on the battlefield. King Darien. This guy does exactly what we want to do, right? He's going to create a board, he's going to give 1/1 counters to that board, he buffs them up a little bit. Additionally, if we need to protect our board, he can do that as well. Notably, it only works on tokens, but hey, that's enough. Ranger class. I really like this one because 1, it gives us a creature, 2, it puts a 1/1 counter on that creature, and then later we can use it for card advantage to cast creatures from the top of our library. Torrent's Fist of Angels. Again, this one puts 1/1 counters on creatures and creates creatures. That's all you need to do. Lastly, we have Avenger of Zendikar. Come on, I could not include this guy. It is a budget build and this is probably the most expensive card in the deck, but listen, it's going to lower the cost of your creatures equal to the amount of plant tokens you have essentially, right? Because you're going to cast Avenger, put a land into play, and boom, basically you're just paying pips to cast creatures at that point. Alright, let's get into the go wide strategy of the deck, right? Because the wider we go, the more counters we can put on creatures, and the cheaper our creatures get. So honestly, Herd Ballast is first up. You know it goes infinite with Ivy Lane Denizen, and it's going to be amazing in this deck even if we never get Ivy Lane Denizen, right? Every time we put a 1/1 counter on this guy, boom, we go ahead and get a 4/4 green Baloth. Giant Adaphage. Not only is this guy a game ender because he has trample, we can go ahead and keep buffing him up, creating more token copies of him, and just buffing him up more, right? Emiria Angel. This is going to create a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying every time a land enters the battlefield. Buffing those up is going to be pretty dangerous. Rampaging Ballast. Again, all we need is a land to get this going. Kadira, Caller of the Small. This one is another one with trample that we can buff up and basically double our board of tokens every time she connects. It's amazing. Maha Bredegard Protector. Again, this one's going to buff our whole team up and create a token whenever a land enters the battlefield. Alright, let's talk about the core of the deck. We have Tyrant Guard. This guy's really good because out of nowhere, boom, our whole board's gonna be indestructible and have hexproof. Champion of Liamhold, we can go ahead and buff this girl up and make all of our giant ballasts unblockable. Evolution Sage. This girl's really good. It's gonna buff our whole board up, proliferating those counters every time a land enters the battlefield. It has a really cool interaction with Fertilid as well because we can go ahead, pay 2 mana, search up a land, put it onto the battlefield, and proliferate the counters on Fertilid. So we basically have infinite rampant growth, so that's pretty cool. It's also going to set off all of our landfall effects while we're doing that as well. Genesis. This guy's just super useful in a green-white deck. We can go ahead and get any of the pieces that we lose back into our hand. Eternal Witness, same thing, just really useful. Put it into the battlefield, go ahead, get whatever we need out of our graveyard, and it's just a staple. Sun Titan, again, we can go ahead and lower the cost of this guy to where we're literally just paying 2 white pips for him, and then we will be able to grab any of our pieces from the graveyard. This deck has some really low to the ground creatures, so he targets a ton of creatures in the deck. Finally, let's move on to that card draw. We're going to be casting a lot of creatures and they're going to be massive, so that's where we're going to be targeting our card draw. Soul of the Harvest, whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, you can draw a card. Primordial Sage, whenever you cast a creature, draw a card. Beast Whisperer, another card that's going to go ahead and draw you a card whenever you cast one of those creature spells. Guruk's Pack Leader, just a really solid card that's going to draw us a lot of cards throughout the game. Rumor Gatherer, I really like this one because it's got consistent scrying ability, and if we can play more than 2 creatures a turn, it's going to draw us a card. Additionally, she does trigger on tokens, so that's pretty useful. Rishkar's Expertise is going to be really good because, again, we can make some massive creatures in the deck, so we're going to draw a lot of cards and then play a card for free. Soul's Majesty, another card that draws cards off of our creature's power. Sanctuary Warden, I'm really excited about this girl because 1, she can protect herself, and 2, she's going to draw us a lot of cards and add to our board state while she's doing it. Return of the Wild Speaker, this is another card that can draw us cards based on our creature's power. Greater Good, I really like this one because it sticks onto the battlefield. When you sack a 10/10 to this, you don't even care that you have to discard 3 cards. Life Legacy, again, sack our commander, go ahead and draw a lot of cards. Notably, we can get this guy to where he only cost a white and a green, so being able to sack him for card draw is going to be really useful. Momentous Fall is another card we can use to abuse our commander, right? Sacrifice him, draw a shit ton of cards. Lastly, we have Torsten, founder of Benalia. If we lose this guy, we're going to get 7 tokens in his place. Additionally, we're probably only spending a white and a green to cast this guy. Then we get a look at the top 7 cards of our library, put any number of creatures or land cards from among them into our hand, and we can throw the rest at the bottom of our library. Talk about card advantage, talk about getting your lands, and you know, he replaces himself when he dies. I like it. Alright, let's get into ramp. We have Fertilid. This guy's good. He comes in with counters, and he's good for 2 lands. Incubation Druid, I like this one because we can always pay 5 mana. Well, in this deck, we probably won't have to. And then she'll go ahead and tap for 3 mana instead of 1. Rampant Growth, just a classic, really usable Nature's Lore, Cultivate, Secure Tribuilder, and Diligent Farmhand. I really like Diligent Farmhand. He's a really good turn 1 drop. He'll get you a land, and then you can bring him back from the graveyard and abuse him later. Nissa's Pilgrimage, another really budget card that does exactly what you need to do, and honestly, I didn't know Kodama's Reach was up to like $2 now. Pretty crazy. Explosive Vegetation, again, another solid budget card that's going to get you some lands into play. Traverse the Outlands. This card's going to be amazing with those landfall synergies we have, right? Because if we have our commander on the battlefield, we'll go search up 5 lands, put them onto the battlefield, and get 5 of those landfall triggers. I'm into it. Lastly, we have Removal. We're running Aberrant. I really love this guy because, honestly, he enters the battlefield, he replaces himself because of that Ravenous trigger, and he's going to go ahead and wipe those artifacts and enchantments off the field. Reclamation Sage, just a staple. Steelbane Hydra. I like this card in this deck, right? We can make him bigger, we can get rid of all the artifacts and enchantments we don't like, and he's just adorable. Look at him. Beast Within, a solid removal card, and they can't get that mad at you when you give them a 3/3, right? Generous Gift, again, we're giving them 3/3s. They can't get mad at you. Swords to Plowshare, just a staple, really efficient removal. Damning Verdict, destroy all creatures with no counters on them. That sounds pretty fun. Austere Command, this was one where we kind of get to control how it gets wiped. Notably, it's important, but half the time you're just going to choose, you know, value 3 or less, value 4 or less, and get rid of the board. Azori's Predation, I like this because it gives us a board and a board wipe, am I right? Additionally, if we have those cards on the field that give these beast tokens when they enter the battlefield, they're going to do more than 4 damage. Martial Coup, another board wipe where you're going to be left with a board state. Alright guys, that's going to do it for our weekly budget deck tech. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more of these, and hey, I'm going to try something different this week. I'm going to go ahead and post a non-version of this deck sometime during the week, so keep your eye out for that.